If you're planning to run the game as a Dungeon Master for the first time, I may be able to help you. If your game is 2, 3, 4 hours or even more, or you're running a module, or you're running your homemade campaign, you must prepare. Don't just wing it. Prepare and then wing it, because your players may ruin your plans, but you need to start somewhere. That is D&D. And if you're a first timer, I would definitely recommend running a pre-written campaign of some sort first. Yes, you have to read the whole thing. That's my advice. Get a basic understanding of point A to Z, what the characters have to do to get to the end point. Now, you don't literally have to sit down and read it cover to cover in one sitting. Break it up into little parts. I personally read maybe a chapter a night for like an hour before I go to bed. Even if you only read a page or two, that is progress. Now, I would actually also recommend boiling down the things you read into notes of your own understanding. You're almost simplifying the book that you're going to run. So if you have that basic skim through at the beginning and then you read each section properly, make your own notes, before each session you'll probably have skimmed that book in total 3 or 4 times by the time you've run the campaign. You'll keep referring back to it. It's annoying that once you're running the campaign, you know that book back to front, and then you're finished and you think, I want to run it again because now I have a complete overview and I could do so much better second time. But unfortunately, many of us don't get the second chance. So talking about boiling down the book, I would skim through it, read it as best you can, note down locations, the monsters, the treasures and loot, the traps, the NPCs. Those are the sweet details, the very basics you will need. If I've managed to paint a vague picture in my head as I'm running the game, I know what is vaguely wanted. As long as my scenario is similar to the campaign and doesn't stomp on the ending, then it's fine. They don't know. So be roughly familiar with the plot points of the story. And certainly don't worry about the DCs written for everything they have to roll. As a beginner, just always use 10 as the DC. If you want to do 10 and 15, that's up to you. But it's 50-50 on 10. It's one less thing to worry about, that's what I'm saying. Don't worry about the DC of every little thing. Just say, I don't know, 10, 11, something around there. It's just one less thing to worry about this side of the screen. Have a list of NPC names, male and female, but not necessarily recognisable as such. For example, I have Abel, Borath, Cornelius. You notice I've gone ABC. I try to kind of alphabetise them, but having those names to hand just makes things much more fluid. Your players will ask what their name is. Have the player cards with the names on facing them, but then on this side you've got like, they're a bard, they're a tiefling, their AC to hit them is 13, their passive perception is 12. Little indicators on your side. You're not always asking them, what's your AC again? You can look, did you roll and hit them? And especially have cards for the monsters. Now yes, there's the monster manual, there's beautiful monster cards which are simplified, but just grab a card, T-Rex, AC, it's hit points, it's got plus something to attack, it does average damage of, just a simplified card, so you're not always juggling all these books. NPCs, let them do average damage. I know they can have like plus 5 to attack or whatever, just roll some 20s, and if they get 11 or above, they hit whoever. It doesn't matter, because it's the players that are important. The NPCs are just filler. And if you really want the NPCs to have their particular numbers in play, give the NPCs to the players. Say, right, this is Jimmy McPencil, and now you're playing him. Yes, alongside their own characters. All you need is the skeleton of the game. They're going to fight something, you need to, as quickly as you can, say, yeah, you hit it, or it hit you back and it does this damage. And I'm sorry, but make it up. It's quicker if you just say, yeah, it did 5 damage. Players want combat, times they can use their skills, so skill options, treasure, and roleplay. That's pretty much it. They will invent the rest. But what happens in your game? If you haven't got a book, or maybe you want to spice up the book you're running, online roll tables, look them up before the game. You can find so many online, whether it's an encounter whether it's an interesting quirky place they find along the way, whether it's an NPC, whether it's a little quest, a side mission, whatever. The tables are there, like D100 tables. Do not roll in game. Look before. You might not like the first 10, but you might find 5 brilliant little ideas you think that will be funny. They're all varied. Write them on your piece of paper behind the DM screen before the game, so that you can improvise, but you know, oh yeah, okay, you're walking down this road and you can move into what you've got. There's a well. There's something, tendrils hanging out of this well. You've already wrote it down. You know what you're doing. You can just paint a picture in your head and describe it. Again, choose your NPC random names ahead of time. If you screw up a name, like I said, Jimmy McPencil, they might laugh, they usually do, and they'll say, alright Jimmy McPencil, write it down in your book, so that next time the NPC needs that name, you know he's Jimmy McPencil. It doesn't matter that it's stupid, it's memorable, that's why it's funny, and D&D is about having fun. On your first game, it will be your worst game. You'll always look back on it and say that was terrible. But you have to start somewhere, and the main thing in D&D is just to give the players a good time. The players just want to play. Give them something to play with, that's it. Rules checking, don't even bother. Write it down, oh we don't know how to do grapple, we don't know how to do offhand attacks. Just make it up at the time, look after. Game time is precious. And if someone's asking to do too many things on their turn that's really stupid but funny, let them do it. The rule of cool. Yes, you can't have 3 actions in one turn, but if it's cool and everyone's like on board with it, what does it matter really? And if you're a bit further into games and like you've fought goblins 10 times, change the goblin stats. Don't give them the same AC, don't give them the same health, don't let them do the same damage. Hey, these goblins are like the ones you normally fought, but they're somehow bigger. That keeps it interesting. Prepare and then wing it. It's the same with loot. Get a list of 5 good loot things. Roll some numbers and say, yeah, that's your gold. Roll a d20. Have like 5, you roll a 5, you roll a 10, you roll a 7, a 12. The first gold they find is 5. The second is 7. It's easy and quick. Do not roll in game time. Now I'm a fan of handouts and slipping notes to players, giving them secret maps. Now these maps are often half-drawn corridors or area locations. I don't even know where they go. I'll decide that later. When they say I want to follow this map, make them do some research. Just push them off to the next game, and in between games, then you can decide what it is and what's there when they get there. If you've got time, write down some letter that they're going to find on the road, so you can hand them this scroll, and all the other players are like, oh, let me have a read. Just entice them. In one of my early games, I'd read a note in the DMG about a rock with a face on it. So I took a rock and I drew a face on it, and I passed the players it. I said, you find this on the road. And that rock was talked about. I said, I think it's important. It wouldn't just be there. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't important. But then the way that they developed this mythos about it, called it Bob, it went on, and I, behind the scenes, made it something that came out later. Eventually, the rock turned into this other huge helper in the dire time of need of the player. The next thing I would say is watch Critical Role or Dimension 20, whatever's on YouTube, listen to podcasts, talk to friends who play it, steal from movies, steal from books, and then tweak it if you really want to disguise it. Watch Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, and just get ideas from that. It's fine. Just rinse and repeat every week. And from week to week, in between games, look up 3 traps you want to put in, look up 3 cool ideas you've found, flick through the monster manual and think, that sounds like an interesting creature. Then pull out a cave, a bog, a heavy wood, a location, smash them together. That's what they're going to find. Tease it as well. You see the sliver of a monster, the leg behind a tree, or you hear it first. Always describe the 5 senses. You pick 2, you know. When describing a scene, you smell something on the air first. You hear the squelching of mud. It just helps everyone get into the moment. If you are doing voices, which I am terrible at, and I try not to do accents, but you can make your voice go higher, you can make it go lower, you can slow your speech, you can talk really fast. It just gives that little unique characteristic. Now, with important NPCs, I will always give them a little quirk. Oh, he's fidgeting with his fingers, he's got really untidy hair. You know, if he's got like twigs in his hair, eventually, you don't even have to call him his name, you say, oh, nest hair comes towards you, and everyone knows who you mean. Maybe they talk loudly, maybe they talk softly. And then write it in your notes so you know that Bob speaks softly and fast, and you'll always look down and be able to mimic something in that vein. So it's a split 50-50 between, is there more work running a campaign where you've got to read everything and remember, or is it harder to completely make something up yourself? It can be done. You have got the time, half an hour a day between games. All you need is a pencil and a pad. Now, if you have miniatures, that's great. You might have to set up a scenario and then just go back to describing the travel. There is no right answer, there is no wrong answer. Do whatever you have at your fingertips. A blank sheet of paper, miniatures galore, nothing. However you want, just get a piece of paper, make some notes, have enough details to last you the time of the game, and let the players play. You create that square for them to play in, and they fill it. But they can't interact with nothing, so you need to have some things. Like there's a guy at a bar, he's looking funnily at you. The bard's looking bored. What do? If they really don't know what to do, force actions upon them. Somebody tries to pickpocket them. Somebody offers to buy them a drink and regale them with stories. A bomb goes off outside. A dragon swoops by. A house explodes. Where do you want them to go? Shepherd them like a sheepdog to sheep. Have an NPC come up and say, hey guys, you need to check this thing out. You've been sat in here talking an hour. We all know you're adventurers, you're carrying weapons. Will you come out and help this person? You don't have to stop the game and say, look guys, will you follow the story thread, for goodness sake. Prep can be easy, and it gets easier. You become more confident, but fill your head with ideas and options and then write a handful down. That's what being a DM is. It gets better and it becomes rewarding. You will always have a fraction of DM's guilt afterwards. I could have done better. I wish I'd have done this. Learn from it and you will get better. Good luck to you. Go and have fun adventures and give your players fun.